Now, let me connect this to the page in front of you because I do not want any confusion about what changes today. Open your workbook to day 3. Look at it. It is identical to day 1 and it is identical to day 2. Same 5 steps, same fields, same amount of space. This is not a printing economy. That is the design. The log is constant. It is the fixed instrument. What changes across these 30 days is not the page. It is you and what you are able to see when you look at that page. The log holds still on purpose so that any change in your records is a change in your perception and not a change in the form. So, here is where distance lives today. Step 1, the somatic baseline, unchanged. Hands first, settle, and record what is in your hands before anything is placed. Step 1.5, the per card touch log, unchanged. Touch each face down card once in the order you placed it and write what arrives. Step 3, the constellation map. This is where today's work concentrates. You are already drawing the footprints. Today, as you draw, you measure the gaps, not approximately. Actually look at them and commit to a size. Step 4, structural synthesis. Your geometry sentence today is a sentence about distance. I will give you the exact form in a moment. Step 5, integration notes, unchanged. 2 steps carry the day's lens. The rest of the log holds still. Here is your drill for today. 5 moves. It sits inside the log you already have. It does not add a step. It directs your attention inside step 3. 1. Lay out your cards face down. Exactly as always. Nothing changes about the somatic filter or the touch log. Do those first as written. 2. Before you draw anything, look at the arrangement and find 2 things. Find the 2 cards that are closest together. Then find the 2 cards that are furthest apart. Do this with your eye on the table while everything is still face down. This takes 15 seconds and it is the heart of the day. 3. Now draw your map. And on the map, mark those 2 pairs. Mark the tightest gap and mark the widest one. However you like. A bracket, a short line, a note in the margin. The workbook gives you the perimeter and the legend. The marking convention is yours, as long as you use the same one every day. 4. Note any card sitting near a boundary. That is your edge note, and the field is already on the page waiting for it. 5. Only then do you turn cards over. That is the whole drill. Notice what it does. By the time the first card is face up, you have already made 4 separate observations about the field, and not one of them can be contaminated by what the cards turn out to be. You have taken your measurements before you could be tempted to adjust them. That is the entire architecture of this method in miniature. Step 4 asks you for a geometry sentence. Today, that sentence is about distance, and I'm going to give you a template so there's no ambiguity about what I want. The layout is blank, with the widest gap between blank and blank and blank card, or card sitting near the blank edge. Fill it in. That is the sentence. Here's what you are allowed to put in those blanks. Tight, spread, split, stacked, near the top edge, 2 inches apart, far from center, all structural words. All words that describe the shape of the arrangement and the sizes of the spaces in it. And here is what does not go in those blanks. Not today, not yet. No card name, not one. No meaning, no conclusion about what the distance is supposedly about. I want to be precise about why, because not yet is doing something specific. The moment you write a card name into a geometry sentence, the sentence stops being a measurement and becomes an interpretation. And interpretations are contaminated by outcome. You know this if you have ever looked back at old notes and found that you had already quietly written the ending into the beginning. The geometry sentence is your uncontaminated record. It is the thing you will be able to trust in 3 weeks precisely because it contains nothing you could have wished into it. So, structure only. Sizes and positions. Write it before you flip. And if the sentence comes out boring, if it reads, the layout is fairly even, the widest gap is between the 2 cards on the left, nothing is near an edge, then you have written a true and useful record and you should be satisfied with it. We're going to talk a great deal more about that in a few days. Now, I'm going to tell you the specific way today's drill fails because it will happen to you, and I would rather you recognize it than be ambushed by it. Here is the failure. You draw the map, you flip the cards, and you see what landed in that wide gap, or what landed next to what, and something in you says, actually, that gap was bigger than I drew it. And you reach over and you adjust the map just slightly to make it more accurate. And here's the thing you must understand about that moment. It will not feel like cheating. It will feel like correcting an error. It will feel like intellectual honesty. That is exactly why it is dangerous. The self-serving move always arrives wearing the clothes of rigor. So, the rule from the map freeze applies with full force today, and I want you to hold it as an absolute. After the first flip, the map does not change. If you realize afterward that you misjudged the gap, you do not fix the drawing. You write the realization in your integration notes in step 5, where it's clearly and permanently marked as something you thought after you saw the cards. Here is the line to carry, and it is the load-bearing sentence of this entire method. A misdrawn map, honestly frozen, is evidence. An accurate map, reconstructed from memory, is not. Read it again. A map with an error in it, left alone, still tells you something true. It tells you what you actually perceived before you knew the answer. A map that has been quietly improved after the fact tells you nothing at all, because you can no longer distinguish what you saw from what you learned. Its accuracy is worthless because its independence is gone. You're not being asked to draw a perfect map. You're being asked to draw an honest one. Let me set the bar for today accurately, because if you set it in the wrong place, you will judge a good session as a failure. Here's what a successful day 3 looks like. You drew the map before flipping. You marked the tightest gap and the widest gap. You wrote a geometry sentence with no card names in it, and you did not touch the map after the first card came over. That is it. That is the whole standard. If you did those 4 things, today was a complete success and you should log it as 1. Now, Here is what is not the bar. And I want to be blunt because misplacing this is the single most common reason people abandon a practice like this in the first week. Feeling something is not the bar. You may have felt nothing at all in your hands today. That is a legitimate result, and we're going to spend an entire session on it very soon. Being right is not the bar. There is nothing to be right about yet. Producing an insight is not the bar. You are not here to produce insights this week. You are here to build an instrument, and an instrument under construction does not yet take measurements you should trust. And having the distance means something is not the bar. Today, distance does not mean. Today, distance is only measured. The meaning comes much later, and it comes from comparison across many sessions, from having 30 maps to lay side by side. You cannot compare a thing you have not yet recorded. So today, you record. You are not asked to believe. You're asked to record. Let me close. Today, you learn to see the first of the 3 spatial signals: distance, from the center, from each other, and from the edges. You learned that the gap is not the absence of a card. It is a measurement, and it is available to you before a single card is named. Go to your table. Do the 5 steps in order in one sitting as the book asks. When you get to step 3, slow down and measure. Find the tightest gap. Find the widest. Note anything against an edge. Write a geometry sentence with no card names in it. Freeze the map, then flip. And then, and this matters, stop. Do not go looking for what it all means. Do not go back and reread day 1 and day 2 to see whether a pattern is emerging. It's far too early. You will find a pattern whether or not one is there, and finding one now would be worse than finding nothing. Close the session, close the field, leave the reading on the table. One record, that is the day. Tomorrow's a short one, and I will tell you now what it is about because I suspect some of you will need it before you get there. Tomorrow is about the day when nothing happens. When you sit down, do the work exactly as written, feel nothing at all, and get up wondering whether you are doing this wrong. You're not. And I will explain why this is the correct result. I will see you on day 4.